Okay, so last time we had a lecture, we finished up with the Ronin and how the Ronin are these samurais who's kind of gone rogue. And today we're going to kind of finish talking about the role of samurai and some of the weapons they used and kind of the mental aspects that would go into a samurai. Obviously, I'm not a samurai, so this is strictly from things that I have learned. And so don't be like, no, Miss Gamlin, the samurais wouldn't do that. Okay, this is just basic knowledge. And I'm also just going over your study guide and wanted to kind of fill in a few holes in case you were having trouble. So you can utilize this lecture for that. So, this will be your lecture for this week. And one of the things we wanted to pick up with was just the mental aspect of the samurai. A lot of samurai are obviously chosen at a young age, and they're going to start off learning all of obviously how to use all the different weapons, whether they be swords or whether they be using kendo or the bow and arrow. So, a lot of young samurai start off with the bow and arrow, and they're going to be taught many different techniques just to obviously kind of center themselves because you have to understand that a samurai is very calm in the face of danger and death. And so they start off with just doing like meditation and breathing techniques. They're going to learn how to deal with a lot of mental and physical stress. This is where you probably have seen in movies where they're like you're sleeping and they come up and try to attack you. And you have to be ready at all times. You're going to be, forced to go walk out barefoot in the snow in order to like just get used to hardships and things like that you might encounter. You're going to be forced to hold stiff postures and not complain about them. And you already have to think of yourself and kind of in the ways that you're already dead. And a lot of what they do is to practice this meditation, this calmness, and this idea that there is something other than death. Because as a samurai, it is all about honor and honoring your daimyo and the Lord and who you are supposed to be fighting for. And if you do not honor that person, then you do deserve death, or in essence, you should deserve death. So, one of the things that helped them out mentally was working with a couple of ideas of Buddhism. You have Amida Buddhism, which was established obviously a long time ago, but it was really telling that anybody could reach paradise. All you had to do was say Amida's name 70,000 times a day, or at least think it at the last possible moment before you passed away. Zen Buddhism was used heavily amongst the samurai. Around 1100s, it was brought to Japan, and it was talking about how you don't really rely on books or logical thought, but you are all about that discipline, that meditation, and everything. Like I said, the samurai's life is not just about sword fighting; it's about being strict and meditating and being calm. And so it's teaching you how to act instinctively and control your emotions. One of the things that they would have you also do is, other than meditate, is to um, work on trying to achieve enlightenment, which is what we kind of talked about last year, whereas you obviously meditate and everything to do that. And the other thing was they call these koans, Koans. This is from your study guide. And these are puzzling questions proposed by the master. And one of the examples is, what is the sound of one hand clapping? And so it's just kind of making you think of these things. And it's kind of like that question is like, if a tree falls in the wood, does it make a sound? If you're not there to hear it? Or I actually saw this on Twitter the other day. If flowers bloom in Germany and you don't see them, are they still there? And you're just like, obviously they're still there, but you can understand it's kind of these questions that you're supposed to think about. So the code of the warrior is that you're going to practice Bushido. You're going to have all of your armor. And Bushido is the way of the warrior. And this is the fact that you value loyalty and personal honor more than your own personal life. Your duty is to your lord, your daimyo, and you are willing to die or avenge your lord's death. Some people, at their lord died, would kill themselves, kind of like an Egyptian thing, where if they're like the pharaoh died, some people would be killed along with the pharaoh, that type of thing. Same thing would happen. So we already talked about seppuku, which is where you would have a ritual suicide. You would do that in order to avoid capture. You would preserve your honor, or if you had done something shameful, it was the only way to deal with that. And I think I mentioned in the last lecture too, but I'll just mention it. They actually would burn incense in their helmet before they put it on, so that if their head were to be cut off, it would smell good, I guess, is the idea about that. There were some women who were samurai. One of the most famous are Tomo Gozan. She was actually an excellent samurai in her own right. And she was fighting in battles. There's a couple other instances where women were actually trained, but their main thing was to be trained to protect the families when the samurai were gone. So women did actually partake in that. In 12th century, samurai women, were able to manage households. They could inherit land and things like that. By about the 17th century, that's about 1600s, women kind of lost that ability to own land and to do things. They were more like, you need to get up, take care of the family, and then go to bed late after everything's done for the family. Peasant women had a little bit more freedom than samurai wives, just in case you were wondering about that. And then I think one of the other questions that I wanted to actually just brush upon was this idea of isolationism. And I'm going to jump ahead here. You have the Ashikaga Gagka shoguns. They're going to rule at Heian-kyo for about 260 years, and they focus on the rule. And this is when we talked about the golden age of Japan, where they were all about enlightenment and beauty and writing stories and haikus and everything like that. And it's all about how many folds you had in your fan. But eventually, you have a guy named Aishu Tokugawa. He was a shogunate. Tokugawa shogunate is gonna rule for until about 1868. So after the American Civil War, he's going to rule kind of with an iron fist, and then obviously all of the Tokugawa shogunates after him are going to rule with an iron fist. He basically takes the land away from the daimyos and kind of claims this all powerfulness. Still has the emperor as a figurehead, but he's really the one in control. And he doesn't want people to come into Japan. He doesn't want people to leave Japan. And he really wants this idea of isolationism to be an island, to not have to have this interaction. It was just a way for him to control everything. So he, like I said, he prohibits most foreigners from entering Japan, of course, until you have like Commodore Perry, who's going to come in and says, open up. And then eventually they will, when they see how many ships the United States has. And the reason why we wanted any interaction with Japan was just for trade. We weren't actually trying to colonize them in that way. I think that's going to be pretty much it. If you guys have any questions at all, you can look in your book or definitely contact me. But it's really just thinking about, like, samurais. Hopefully some of you watched The Last Samurai, at least watch the clips. It's a pretty good film. Other than that, I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope you had a great spring break. Bye.